Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Kathleen Fitzgerald with Alana Kyle, and this is Dismantling Morgellons, episode 5. And we're happy that you're here listening, and we encourage you and hope that you share this and that you always keep hope, right, Alana?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so she's here with us, and we're so honored and excited to have you here, Alana, to talk about Morgellons and some of the things that you can do and how to spot Morgellons and all sorts of stuff. And you've got some things that you wanted to talk about. So I'm going to hand it over to you. Everyone, this is Alana Kyle, and she has a wealth of information. So it's all you, sister. Take it. Thank you.
Well, I can tell this is going to be a long series because I have so much information that I want to share. And it's really exciting. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people to get through this in a very victorious way, especially if you have Morgellons. You know that it's quite a struggle to survive, and lots of strange issues come up out of the blue that can throw you off. So I wanted to kind of take away some of the mystery of Morgellons and kind of like explain a little bit about what it actually is and how I know. And we have some pictures to share of my own findings. I'm sorry, I have kind of a little bit of frog in my throat today, but hopefully it won't be too.
That's okay. I thought that was going to happen.
It's because I'm detoxing majorly with a new program, so I want to tell people about that at some point.
Oh, good. I'm really hoping that you do. And I've got some, you know.
I know you got a lot of stories too. I'm so excited to hear what you have. If you have things to throw in, please. I love to hear your stories too, because we're on the same page totally. But anyway, so thank you for joining us, everybody. And I think that this is going to be a very interesting episode today. So please, hopefully, watch the whole thing because there's always so many things to take in. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the symptoms of Morgellons and how people end up figuring out that they have this ailment. They call it Morgellons disease, but we are not sure really if it's a disease or a poisoning or a syndrome. So there's different ways to look at it. And unfortunately, it's not recognized by the medical community as such. Some doctors, I think, are a little more aware that it exists, but some doctors flat out refuse that this is a thing at all. Because a lot of Morgellons symptoms look like other ailments. So people kind of go down the wrong path and they get misdiagnosed and they don't exactly know what's really bothering them, and they don't exactly understand because for each person it could be different symptoms depending on where your body is the most weak. If you have a weak immune system, if you have a weak GI tract, if you have a weak, if you have weak parts of your body, then Morgellons can affect you in a different way. So it can look different, but there is a series of symptoms that are kind of common amongst Morgellons sufferers. And I found this through Clifford Carnicom Institute, or Carnicom Institute. He did a survey, which was really interesting. You can go and find it. He pulled together hundreds of people who had Morgellons, and he did a survey and he found out what the top symptoms are. So that was very good. I mean, these are scientific, findings that you can't really dispute. So, Morgellons patients are all over the world. I've known people in the UK, Australia, Canada, even Finland, all over the world, China, you name it. People are finding these symptoms and finding out that it's a real disease or syndrome. So some of the top symptoms that he mentioned, and I have a whole list of them right here, but and I can post it, but this says for the first 5. So the top one is materials or substances emerging from skin. Second one is open and or slow healing lesions. The third one is rashes or other skin conditions. So the rashes, I would like to clarify that they can look very different from day to day, the rashes. So they could be like just like a red swath across your skin. They could be bumpy. They could be blistery. They could look like a zit. I mean, there's so many ways that this rash can appear. So it's not like you can point to it and go, oh, well, that's shingles, or oh, that's whatever. They look like other things, The fourth one is itchy scalp, very itchy. And the fifth one is change in the quality of vision. So you get blurry or fatigued vision. And then interesting, the sixth one is unusual or chronic ringing in the ears. So a lot of people have that. I've had that at times as well. And so that's a very interesting first step. So then I
Number
wrote,
7, keep going.
you want me to keep going? Okay.
Yeah, just do no, number
Go up
7.
to 10. Okay. So number 7 is unusual dental conditions. So
Say it
your teeth
again.
are falling out, unusual dental problems. So
Hmm.
like your teeth are falling out, or they're getting weird infections, like, you end up with a lot of root canals or things like that. 8 is fatigue. So that's a big one. I've known people to be stuck in bed for 2 years at a time. There's a lot of bedridden people in our group as well,
Okay,
unfortunately.
2 more.
Okay, then shortness of breath or persistent and excess mucus or sputum. And then the 10th one is stiffness in joints. I've had all of those. But it's hard when you first try to figure out what the problem is, because you end up going to doctors and you end up trying all these different things that don't work. So it could take you many, many decades or years to discover that actually you have this. I think that it takes a certain kind of person who likes to go down the rabbit hole, because you don't necessarily find out about Morgellons from your neighbors or from your friends, or you don't find out about Morgellons until you start going down a rabbit hole. I started off looking at chemtrails because I knew that was a major health threat, and I was really upset about it. So I started looking into chemtrails, and then that linked me up with Morgellons, because actually Clifford Carnicom was one of the first scientists to actually discover that Morgellons starts from chemtrails. And he did a bunch of studies, and he did a lot of environmental studies, and he found these things that were falling from the chemtrails, and that was what was starting Morgellons illness. So I learned a lot from him. He's one of my mentors, I think.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I know he's highly reputable.
He's got a lot of interesting
is.
information.
He's
He's
the
a
top of his
scientist.
field.
He's really good. And I mean, you have to really be kind of patient to read through all of his papers. He's written hundreds and hundreds of papers. And then to listen to him talk it's a little boring because it's so scientific, but I did learn a ton from what he found.
Wow.
So
Well,
he was
that's
one of
fascinating.
the founding people that really gave some credibility to Morgellons disease. Really, really. And I've actually copied a lot of his papers just so that I have them on file. So in case it all goes away. I've actually done that with a lot of things. Whatever I come across, I copy it, because you never know, right? It might be gone tomorrow, and it has. Jan Smith was another incredible researcher that I learned from. And we don't know where she is or what happened to her. She had an incredible website at one point that really went into a lot of detail about Morgellons, and she was on the RENS program. I don't know if you remember that. RENS, it was sort of like, it's one of those sort of conspiracy programs, they would say, but she did hours and hours with him, and I listened to that, and it was amazing. But she had a website, and it was taken down by the authorities.
Wow.
Yeah. and I was really disappointed in it. But I mean, that just kind of showed me how deep this goes, you know. But then, of course, we come across wonderful Harald Kautz, who is one of my mentors for sure. And he came up with a description of Morgellons, which I thought was really, let me find it. It was really kind of clear because his work is also very, very reputable. He is an incredible scientist, and
Yes, he
when
is.
I came
Absolutely.
across his work, it just blew my mind. I was just like, okay, this is it. This is what we're dealing with. Okay. So this is what he said. And this was from a website you can go to. It's called standfortruth.co.uk. And
Is
I
it
mean,
FOR stand for?
standfortruth.co.uk. And I mean, he has also his own website and lots of YouTube videos. If you ever get a chance, it's worth the time to really listen to his lectures because it's fascinating and it's very informative. And so anyway, so his description of Morgellons is that sufferers have these piezoelectric nanocrystals in their body. And that's the quantum dots. Quantum dots is the scientific term. And I've got thousands of pictures of that coming out of my body. Chemicals are that come from the chemtrails are in people's bodies: barium, titanium, strontium, and aluminum. And so there's these metals that are really toxic to the body. And then there's a fungus that's airborne, and it's communicable nanotechnology, self-assembling, self-replicating nanotubes, nanowires, nanoarrays with sensors. And that's all that, that's the hydrogel. The fungus is the hydrogel. And it's actually, it's this, scientific creation, this hydrogel that, but it grows like a fungus. They added these sort of like natural things to it to make it grow. So it's got a self-replicating ability. And then it like sort of invades your body and takes over kind of. And it is, that's what creates the nanotubes and the wires. And then when a lot of this material comes together, it self-assembles into sensors. And then the sensors are like arrays that are computer technology, and it can send and receive information. That's what he said. It's sending and receiving information through plasmonic antenna. And I've got the pictures of this, pictures of all of this. So
antenna.
And then, and I've also heard him say in other lectures that this takes over your central nervous system, creates a new fake central nervous system. And it is so devastating to the body. I wrote my own description of how it affected me, and I want to go ahead and post the whole I did my own paper. Let's put it that way. I wrote my own like 10-page paper here, explaining my version of reality here when it comes to Morgellons, because I've had this most likely my whole life. I've had it, and but I didn't know about it till 2013 when I started doing the research. But then when I started trying to deal with it and handle it, it fought back. And so I really had a struggle getting anywhere. It doesn't matter how many detox things you do, it just seems to keep coming back, but I found out it's because you have to handle it the right way. If you don't handle it correctly, you can actually do worse than better. So you have to understand the way to detox, and the fact that these are metals we're talking about. And a lot of people end up going the parasite route because it does feel like a parasite, does seem, and there is parasites involved for sure. but they end up going down that road, and then they don't address the metals, and then the metals are really the problem, because they don't leave until you get something to bind them with, because your body knows better not to get rid of metals, because it can damage, it could kill you on the way out. So like you have to make them water soluble. There's no other way to do it. You have to bind them. So that's the whole purpose of our detox programs that we're going to talk about. But anyway, do you want me to talk about this? I'll tell you about my paper that I wrote, but I'll just read.
Sure, you just share whatever you think is appropriate for your audience and for me and everybody. 'Cause, we're here to learn from you. I do have a few thoughts as you were talking.
Go ahead and
They're
tell me what
just side thoughts that have come and gone,
oh.
basically. But no, your work is amazing. So basically, let me just say that in 2013, while you were researching chemtrails, you came upon Clifford Carnicom's work, which led you to Morgellons, which led you to understand the sores and the different things that you were going through, and other people maybe that did you know anybody at the time that
Well,
that
it was so
Morgellons?
new to me. I had no understanding of it at all at that point, and it started to freak me out a little bit. I was like to say, because I was like, oh my God, chemtrails are everywhere. I mean, this is happening everywhere, and so I started seeing it everywhere.
Interesting, because I learned about chemtrails in 2014. It was like March or something of 2014, or early on in that year. And then it didn't take me long to research, and then come to a lot of a side situation, or the root, or it just seems like a big portion of chemtrails, and a lot of the research is about strange things growing that are not alive, yet they act like living tissue, which then became my awareness of nanotechnology, which is this kind of this undead, basically, this living, mimicking life tissue, but it's metal and plastic, acting like it's gripping and it's collecting, it's
Yeah, I
circuitry.
I was like, at first I thought that Morgellons was sores, and I thought it was fibers, which it was, and I actually I wanted to learn about it. I just went deeper and deeper and deeper into it. But what I figured out was, I started looking at my body in a different way. Like I started looking under my fingernails and seeing, like, if I put Vaseline on top, what would happen? And all of a sudden I see these bubbles coming up, thousands of bubbles coming up through the Vaseline. And I was like, whoa, and fibers. And I was just like, and then I got a little microscope and I would look. And so I was starting to do these experiments on my body, and people around me, of course, they freak out. I mean, all of a sudden you look like a freak. I mean, and so there's this whole other component to it, because it's not just that you're trying to treat yourself, but people don't understand, what are you treating?
No, and they
What are
are
you treating?
pumping
What
that
is going
right
on with you?
now. Right now, they're pumping it, because remember we shared that doctor who was online, and there's like, oh, well, those sores are because you're just picking at them because you're nervous, you
Exactly.
have
I've
OCD.
heard it
That
all.
is
I've heard it
not
all.
right, people,
Well,
for that lady to be
okay, I can
saying that.
understand.
Maybe it does happen. And
I
this
can
is not
understand.
medical advice, what we're doing, right? Go.
I
Sorry.
can understand why people would freak out, especially my husband and my kids, because all of a sudden I'm looking at everything with a microscope, and I'm like picking at my face, and like, like my hair is messed up. I'm like so freaked, and I'm freaked
In
out
the
too.
middle of the
I'm freaked
night.
out. Oh yeah, getting up in the middle of the night. I mean, doing treatments for hours in the middle of the night. On the outside, it looks like I'm some kind of meth addict or drug addict, or it looks like I'm some kind of like, I've never been a germ freak ever. Okay. So all of a sudden I look like a germ freak, you know?
Exactly. I
And then,
know.
and I'm like somebody touches something and I go, don't touch that. Because I can see there's like a layer of like fine smart dust on top of the ledge or
Well,
whatever.
let
And
me
I'm like,
say
don't touch
this,
it.
that I've been treating some lesions, and I know that you've got to wash your hands and treat it in a very sterile manner because it's highly infectious, it seems like, this stuff. And it's getting smarter, just like you were saying. And it's adapting. It
Yes.
is what, AI, artificial intelligence. And
Definitely it's AI for sure.
if people, I don't know what I'm seeing, but from my experience, if somebody just gave me some steroid cream or some other cream or balm and said, here, rub that on there, don't touch it, it'll go away. Put your mind, read a book, take your mind off of it or something,
Yeah.
relax on vacation or something.
Yeah. I don't
I don't
like when they
know.
say it's going to get worse if you do something different than what they say.
Well, that stuff's just going to keep growing and collaborating and getting its circuitry bigger and bigger, it seems like to me. And it's a race kind of against time, but you also
Yeah.
have to treat it in certain ways. And we're just going to get to that. But it's
That's so sweet,
phenomenal to
though.
be talking to somebody on this level, Elena. So
Oh
thank
God,
you.
Kathleen.
Thank you. Thank
Oh,
God.
Kathleen, thank God for you. I am so,
Thank
you have
God for
helped me.
people here watching this. You guys are like totally on fire. Anybody watching this right now, you are, I don't know, I wouldn't say, that's where everybody should be, but people that are sick, a lot of the symptoms that you're experiencing are coming from, yes, your smart devices in conjunction with the metals and the plastics that are getting into our bodies. And we definitely don't want to be lining up for them to just shoot it right into those veins, baby, that,
Exactly.
okay, that's I'm going to say,
Terrifying.
but everybody knows who said that. And it was really more horrific than that. So no, we don't want to be doing that. Anyway.
Well, we need to break it down though, because I mean, it's one thing we already know. We know because we've been studying this for a long time, a long, long time. We know what we're talking about. However, there's a lot of people that are kind of new and they don't quite understand how things relate and how they're connected. So that's what I'm hoping to be able to bring to everyone is to explain that we've been doing the research, we found all the scientific papers, we found the money trail, we found the people who actually made this and why. I mean, we have all of that information. Some of it, of course, we can't really say because we don't want YouTube to take us down. So we have to be careful what we say. We're very censored, of course. So anyway, and if people have questions, of course, they can reach either of us and maybe, if they want a specific question answered. And soon we're going to be doing like some kind of a question answer like session, right? Where we can invite people on, and Candy Nelson wants to be on. So that'll be fun to hear her side of
Oh
things.
yeah, I can give people my Zoom number and the code, and they
And
can
we can all
just
be on a Zoom
join
together.
in. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do that.
that'd be so amazing. So we'll do that soon, maybe next week or the week after. So anyway, getting back to the fact that so this stuff comes from the chemtrails, or it could be in other like childhood VAXs.
So that,
It
yeah, I wanted to
can,
know how old some of this stuff was, because I think I'm dealing with something that's super old.
well, yeah, I know what this is.
Collaboration.
I've had this at least 40 years, so it's old. It's not, I mean, some of it's new, but I mean, of course, the newer technology they're pumping out is slightly different, but the hydrogel part of it has been around. It's been around. So the hydrogel is like the main component that is causing problems because it's so insidious. It's so it grows really fast. They've actually seen it growing under microscopes and stuff. So
Elena, is hydrogel graphene oxide, or is it different?
yeah, so all of the nanotechnology that we're talking about, the basic foundation of it is graphene.
Okay, thank
The
you.
graphene is
Is hydrogel.
Yeah, well, it's in hydrogel. Okay, there's components. They put components together to create a certain biotechnology effect.
Atmosphere.
Yeah, well, it's for a specific reason. It's not just like this, you know, mad scientist crazy invention. They were actually creating
Seems
it
like
for a specific reason.
hydrogel is the gooey, and the
The
graphene oxide
sticky,
is more the structural scaffolding stuff.
yeah. So yeah, well, the graphene is the nanotechnology part of it that they added to hydrogel along with other things to create the conductivity so that they can use it through with the sending and receiving and the information gathering. Like it's like the sensor part of it. Oh, here we go.
Oops, that's not quite the one I was gonna do if I can get there. This one.
The picture. Okay, so here we go. So okay, well here's an example. This is a very long story. Okay, but my face has been a major battleground for this stuff. And I know this thing is huge, actually, that particular sample. And
I've
I
seen
had
the
problems with
structure similar. So there's other people that have these samples taken from them that's very similar. So this right here is graphene oxide that's in the hydrogel,
there you
correct?
go. It's a good example. Yeah,
Okay.
well that one's actually an assembled like device. That's fully assembled. So that is the sort of end product
What is
that,
this thing here? This long
well, I'd
thing.
been melting the hydrogel and it kind of melted the thing a little
Oh, I
bit
see. Okay.
with
Okay.
the products because I was using DMSO and DMSO melts it.
So you're
But
saying that this whole thing assembles within the body.
yes, exactly. Yes,
It has to grow in the
right.
body
It kind of
to
comes together
become
and
this.
creates,
It
yeah,
just
it's like a,
doesn't like appear like this. It has to kind of collect the nano
right.
dust and then assemble into this fashion.
Yes. Okay, I'll
It's
tell you,
okay.
let me talk about how it happened. So I was working on my face and I had a really bad problem with my face. And I especially noticed an area right here that was kind of raised. And I'll start working on it, even though there's nothing there really. It's just I start working on it and I'll like feel this pain, like extreme pain and soreness and redness starts happening. And I just like start working on it. And all of a sudden I got this huge glob of hydrogel that came off that was really long. It was like that big. I mean, these huge, just thick thing of hydrogel just peeled right off. And that piece has a grid formation on it, exactly matching the thing. And then underneath it was that thing, and it looked just silver. I have pictures of it, but I have pictures of the whole process. But basically, it looks silver, like sort of like a tattoo, a silver tattoo. And I had no idea what I was looking at. I'm like, oh, this is bizarre. So then I took that off. And then I ended up looking at it under the microscope and I found all those quantum dots lined up like that.
Fascinating.
It's really amazing.
Amazing.
And I think it's the mark of the beast. I honestly think that particular thing, it's the mark of the beast. And they actually have been touting it. It's made by Perfusa. Perfusa? Is that what I said? It's not Perfusa. What's the name of that thing? Anyway,
Reminds
this,
me of, remember Blade Runner
yeah.
had some scenes in it where they found, they were able to find the genetically, modified part of
Oh God, I gotta watch that again. I know there's so much stuff in that movie.
yeah, watch
There's
Blade
so much
Runner because
stuff.
yeah,
A
he
lot of
has to
movies,
take the
a lot of
sample, just
movies.
the scale, and he has to read a number on it, and
You know
it's
what? That is so,
fascinating.
yeah, that movie has so much of this stuff in it. Oh my God. And it's terrifying. And there's other movies too that talk about all this stuff. And it's like, holy smokes, they've
Yeah,
been
we'll have
telling us about this for a while. And this mark of the beast was coming. It's been coming, and and I really think that that's what they're going to be doing, because this whole thing is about tracking and tracing and and having control, like kind of like making people into herds, cattle herds, and they like know every person has a number, and every person has, they're tracked and traced.
Yeah, there's one with the guy Justin Timberlake, and there's another really pretty lady. Anyway, where there's time, they've got time, and they have to give each other time, and it's
Yeah,
all
yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I saw that one too. I've seen them all. I've seen them
That one's a
all.
little bit,
It's
funkadelic.
terrifying. It's like a Black Mirror episode. Did you ever see Black Mirror?
Oh, I watched a few of those. I did. Okay, now
Just
we're down to 9 minutes. So
okay.
now you take the show where you want it for 9 minutes, and then we'll definitely come back and do an episode, 6 or 5.20.
Okay. So I want to just back up a little bit and just, there's so much stuff to talk about. I want to read some of this too. This is my writing, but maybe the next, let's save that for the next episode. But so talking about this mark of the beast, all right. Perfusa, I think that's the name, is it? Perfusa from DARPA. So DARPA hired, they got Perfusa to manufacture these little.
Can you spell that, please?
I think it's PROFUSA, but and I have it here somewhere, but my notes are just all over the table.
Oh, that's fine. That's close enough for me.
Anyway, so
just
DARPA,
wanted to make sure.
Just know that DARPA makes these. Okay, they're implants that get injected, and they go under your skin, and they track and trace like all your biomarkers. So and then they send that information to where AI, but it's basically they're keeping track of everything you do and everything you eat and everything that you feel, and all of your like your heart rate and your blood, your blood pH. Like every biomarker in your body gets tracked through this chip. Well, it's not a chip, it's a hydrogel. It's hydrogel. So it's basically the same. It's like these created things that can easily be put under your skin. It's like as big as a grain of rice or smaller than a grain of rice. So, it's like, oh, nobody will notice this, right? But it's the way that they're going to, track you. You can't go on a plane without them knowing you got on a plane. They know where you are at every point, everywhere you are. Even if you don't have your phone with you, they're going to know what you're doing, where you're going, just like cattle. So this is, I think, the point of it, of the stuff I've experienced is like, I've been a human experiment, and I've been experimented on since I was a baby. And it's been pretty horrible, pretty horrific. It's torturous, the things they've done to me. And I'm really grateful that I'm alive, and I got my brain still, and I can walk, and I can do things, and my teeth aren't falling out. My hair isn't falling out. I'm so grateful. So I got to tell you guys, there's hope here, that if you can follow some of the things that I learned, follow some of the things that we know how to deal with this, you can change your life. You can completely change your health. I haven't been to a doctor per se for 5 years. I didn't need to. I'm totally healthy. I got COVID once, and it only lasted 4 days. And that I didn't even think was COVID, because it felt like something else. It was really, I really think that what they're calling COVID is not really COVID. But anyway, so we'll go into that. That's a whole nother thing I want to talk about. But
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I love to hear that. Yeah, you look great. You look great.
Oh, thank you. You know what? I'm so grateful. I have to tell you guys, so anyway, that's why I'm so excited to talk to you all, because I feel like there's so much hope, and I really, even the people who got there's hope for you too.
Absolutely.
It's all the same.
Absolutely.
It's all the same. And we got to talk about how to deal with it, because this is the world we live in now, people. This is the world we live in. It's a Black Mirror episode, and a lot of people just want to put their head in the sand and forget about it and go back to sleep. But that's just a way to, you're just kind of going along with the program if you do that. Like you need to go against the program, and think about, you know, your life and how you want to take charge and take charge of your body, take charge of your soul. That's really important, you know. So I mean, we'll go into the details. There's so many details, but thanks for sharing that picture. There's more, lots more pictures that I want to share.
I can share one more. We have a few more
Okay.
minutes.
Okay. So
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. This takes a second to get in there. Okay, I wanted to show this one. This one's pretty interesting to me.
back away because I can't see the whole thing. It's huge.
Okay,
There you go. There you go. There you go. You got it. You got it. Okay, yeah. So this is a bunch of those hexagons, and this is gold. It's actual gold. And there's some fibers in the middle. That brown stuff is fibers, but that came out of one of my detox baths, and I was pretty shocking. But here's the really shocking thing. Okay, it's really small, by the way. You can, I mean, barely see it with your eyes. This is under a 200 magnified scope. And my friend Candy Nelson has the exact same one. She has the exact same thing. She got it out when she was doing some detox, like topical treatment on her skin. And so, I mean, and she lives across the country. So it's not like we're making this up. This is actual stuff that has come out of our body.
Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, I'll come back in.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we can do one more. She's spiritual background. Okay, this one's pretty
Okay,
interesting.
so that's what a sword looks like under magnified 200 times. And it's got layers of various nanomaterials. There's, you know, the carbon fibers there, the you know, graphene, they're graphene fibers. And then you've got the hydrogel, and then you've got these like this sort of orangey stuff, these yellowish orangey stuff that I'm not really sure what that is categorized as, but it's sort of like resin, and it hardens into like a really crusty, resiny kind of thing. And this is very deep. This sore goes 1/4 inch deep into my skin, and it's extremely painful.
How'd you get this picture?
Oh, how did I get the picture? I just put it under my magnifier. And
Oh, you just like, this is a sample from your skin then?
Yeah, this is right on my skin. I had 40 of these on my leg at one time. And so I have another picture of when I used DMSO and I cleared out the top layer. And then underneath is like all of these, it's like a nest. It's a nest of these fibers, and they don't leave. They're not, it's not like you could just pick them up and take them out. Like they're stuck to you. They're in there.
Yeah, I've seen this with other people. I haven't found any of this, but I know this is a common feature. And then there's this, but the picture
really
is pretty big. So I think it's
you can
like,
see the bubble. There's a bubble on the top.
I want to call the weather. And then, you know, there's a big storm coming on from the south.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing that came out of my nose. It was as big as a jelly bean.
Wow, amazing. Well, people,
it was very hard. Okay.
Let's get back to something a little more. We'll do this. Okay, here we go. Okay, well, we're going to run out of time, Alana. So why don't you give us a few minutes or a few words in about 30 seconds, and we'll wrap this up.
Okay, well, I don't want you guys to freak out about any of this. I know it sounds really freaky and really scary, but I think that when you get to know all the facts and you get to know that there's hope, then you won't be so you know, worried about your family or your friends or yourself. I mean, there is a way to get through this with grace and dignity, and also empowered and, you know, empowered to, you know, make changes that are going to last in your life.
You guys are going to want to stay tuned to episode 6 of Dismantling Morgellons. That's where